Bum, ba-dum, bum. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. It's spring. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day in Florida. Finishing up the day, turning dark. And waiting for folks to join in. Hi, Perry Smith. Bump, 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 bump. Little juicy fact that a lot of people don't know. We're going to talk about a bunch of little juicy facts that a lot of people don't know, not only tonight, but other nights, other Monday nights, Facebook Lives. Here we go. Hi, Nathalie. Hi, Jerry, Francine. Where are you folks from? Tennessee, I see. Hi, Joanne from Tennessee. From OJ. Oh, yeah. I don't know where that is. Hi, Beth. Shelly from Wisconsin. Love it. Love to see people coming in. Makes me proud to be an American when I see everybody coming from the U.S. Not that we don't want people from everywhere. Oh, Chicago. I used to live in Chicago.
That's from California, Joette.
Oh, is it?
California.
It's in California. Did I mispronounce it? OJ? OJ? OJAI. Yeah, I loved Chicago. It's a great place. Lived there in 1973 to 1975, I think it was. Right downtown, right near the Water Tower Hyatt House. Loved that city. Loved it. I was right in the thick of things. It was great fun. Then I lived on Michigan Avenue between Belmont and Diversey Harbors. I bet you know exactly where that is. Anyone who lives in Chicago knows those areas. I was having a lot of fun in those days. Not that I don't have fun now, but tonight we are sticking with our materia medica and staying with the A's in my materia medica. I've got so many notes in here now. This is my copy, my materia medica. So should you be interested, you might want to get a hold of this. If you don't, that's okay with me. You can always learn homeopathy. There are many, many ways to learn homeopathy. I teach only one of many. I will say, however, that the one that I teach, practical homeopathy, I believe is the best, or otherwise I wouldn't be using it for my practice, nor would I be teaching it. So I have a lot of confidence in this method that I teach, which is what I've coined practical homeopathy, based a great deal on the Banerjee protocols, and even some other protocols that I've learned through the years, some that I've figured out on my own. Other teachers have taught me. And by protocol, I mean when we have a condition, we have the medicine. So it's not a condition, and then it could be many, many, many medicines. More often than not, it's one medicine, one specific potency that acts, and one specific method for administering it. In other words, frequency, how often it's given. The Banerjees have found that many of their protocols, they can count on them acting in approximately 85% of the population who need it, who need that particular medicine for this particular condition. That's a very high number. That's a very high number. And by using these protocols, it makes this medicine reproducible. And that's very important. It's important to me as a practitioner. It's important to me as a teacher. It's important to me as a mom and teaching my children, my now adult children. But we want reproducible. And in classical homeopathy, I didn't really even plan on going into this tonight, but while I'm here, might as well flesh it out a bit. In classical homeopathy, it's one condition or one person and condition, and we can have many, many different answers to that. In fact, I used to be astounded by how frequently we would not agree on homeopathic medicines. In fact, most of the time when I was studying in Toronto, where we had 350 people in the class, and we would take a live case, and the patient would leave the room. We would start analyzing, and people would start coming up with different homeopathic medicines. It was subjective as far as I was concerned. It was too subjective. I'm not saying it doesn't ever work. It certainly does work. It's harder to learn. It's harder to apply. It's harder for people to get the concept, because it takes many, many years for someone to understand how to do it. It takes years of study of the repertory, years of study of materia medica. This method that I teach, I can teach you tonight how to use this medicine, and you will know exactly how to do it. You know the potency, the frequency. You'll know under what conditions it can be used. And that is what I love about this. That's what my courses are based on. That's what my blog is based on, what these Facebook Lives are based on. Everything that I do now for the last many years has been based on this simple method. So, tonight we are going to talk about Arsenicum album. We're in the A's. It's Arsenicum, Arsinicum. It's arsenic, and album means white. So it's white arsenic. So it's arsenicum, exactly the way it sounds, folks. This is Latin, makes it super easy. Arsenicum, and the second word is album. Love, 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 love. Look at all these hearts coming towards her, because Arsenicum album is one of the great poisons in the world. And the reason that I put it in those terms is because, as you know, we homeopaths love poison. Why? Why do we love poison? You folks tell me. I'm going to scroll down, see if I can get some answers. Why do we homeopaths love poisons? I'll leave that for you to ponder and get back to me in a minute, because it's such a fascinating concept. So, of course, when it's diluted 6 times to the 100th power, 6C, or it's diluted, so it's Arsenicum 6C, or Arsenicum 200C, diluted 200 times to the 100th power, it changes everything, doesn't it? It makes it into a medicine. So, all righty. Let's see. Hey, would you mind putting that light on up there? I think that might, we have it on. Okay, good. So we're going to talk about Arsenicum album and when we use it and when we don't. So I'm going to tell you a little story, which is a very funny story. My father was a very funny man. He could make a joke out of anything. He delivered really well because he always had a smile on his face. And he told a story time and again. My father was, let me preface it by saying, my father was a professional musician. He played trumpet in big bands when he was a young man, and played in orchestras, and then later on went to flute and did the same, played in orchestras and bands and duets and trios, etc. And he was a very devout musician. He practiced incessantly in any group he could get into. That's what he did. Anytime he had an opportunity to play with his musician friends, he would do it. So my mother's personality was a little different than my father's. My mother had a personality, still has. She's lives with my husband and me. She did a lot of things that were kind of off the wall. And so she often did this. And it was kind of a simple thing, and I think you'll get it, but she was always organizing the kitchen. And in doing so, she would make it chaotic. It would be organized somewhat, and then everything would be changed, and it would throw everybody off. So one day she found all these teas, and she said, "Oh, this is ridiculous. We don't need them in all the boxes, and many teas are not labeled. I'm just going to put them all in one box. And that way, anytime we want a tea, we just take it. We don't know what kind it is, but what the heck, it's tea is tea is tea." That's why my mother always thought she kind of oversimplified things. And so one day she made this pot of tea, and she had no idea what kind of tea it was. She made, excuse me, a big jug of it and added honey or something and put it in the refrigerator. My father came home and said, "Oh, look at this, iced tea." And he drank a glass. And then he really enjoyed it. So he said, "I think I'll have a second glass." Now, my mother was known to put in senna tea. That is, it's the common name, or the commercial name is Smooth Move. And she just put that all in there with it. She thought, well, Tetley, Senna, what difference does it make? So by the end of the evening, my father had 2 full glasses of Smooth Move or Senna tea. And that night he had to play, he had to perform, and it was in an orchestra. And so he got on stage and started to play, and they were all playing. And my father, was a flutist. There's only one flute, and you kind of notice if the flute's missing, particularly for certain pieces. And he was up there playing, and all of a sudden the tea hit him, and he went just like that. Oh my God! He thought to himself, "I'm on the stage. Something I had today is causing explosive, it feels like potential explosive diarrhea." And he gently put his flute down unceremoniously and walked off the stage, down the steps, ran to the men's room, and all the way, my mother's name is Della, by the way, all the way she kept thinking, "Della! I know it had to be the tea that you made today." And he swore her name all the way to the bathroom and back again. Every time I think about that story, and he told that story, it cracked us all up. So he had terrible diarrhea that night. So the question is, my question is to you, do you treat that? Do you give a homeopathic medicine for what my mother does to people? Or do you just let it pass? And that's actually a very good question, because many folks, every time I think about it, and then my father, I have very thick eyebrows. My father had thicker and darker eyebrows than mine. So when those eyebrows went up with the flute, it was noteworthy. Let's put it that way. So do we treat something like that? By the time he got to the bathroom, and he spent about 20 minutes in the bathroom and tried to get back on stage again, then had to return to the bathroom. By the end of the night, it was over with. We could treat something like that, but to be honest, we generally don't. Because that's not a disease. That's a reaction to something that we know is going to be short-lived. And we're always looking. I know that when you're first learning homeopathy, you can't wait to use something, to use a medicine for a specific condition. But I'm going to tell you that it's always better to give it a little time, unless you know it's something more serious than that. If my father thought that was something like food poisoning, and he could have gotten sicker, and he knew that it would have to be something that could continue and disrupt his life, that could go on for days, by all means, we treat it. But in this particular circumstance, he knew what that senna does. He knew what that tea does, and he knew that it would only be a matter of an hour or so, and it would be over. It just happened to be an inconvenient hour. So I want you to remember that, because I don't want you to think in terms of always running to a medicine. However, when our Senecum album is truly needed, it is a great medicine. Great for food poisoning. I have another story. There was a time, and I've actually written about this on my blog, when actually my husband could have yelled out, "Joette!" because it's usually the woman's fault when something goes wrong with food. I had defrosted some turkey and stuffing and had put it on the counter, and I got really busy. The kids were young at the time. And I got super busy. My husband was, no, not yet. All day long, I was doing so many things, and I put this stuff on the counter, and I thought, I don't know that I really want to save this. It looked a little freezer burn. I think I'm just going to throw it out. And I didn't want to throw it in the garbage because the dog was always getting into the garbage. So I put it aside. And then that night, I still didn't throw it out. I think this is the way it went. And the next day, it was still on the counter. And that day, my husband came into the kitchen, and when I wasn't there, he said, "Ooh, looky here. Turkey with stuffing." And he started to eat it. And I came in the room and I said, "Oh, that's not good. No, honey, you can't eat that." And within very short order, he's sitting right here next to me. within very short order, he got very sick. Unlike my father knew that it was the tea. It was not a big deal. It was going to be over within no time. My husband got so sick. Yeah, he thought he was going to die. Actually, I also thought you were going to die. He was on the floor in the bedroom, laying flat, and he would not respond or could not respond. I said, honey, are you okay? Honey, did you go to the bathroom yet, honey? And he would not react. He just didn't react at all. And I kind of felt under his nose and felt his for his pulse. I thought he was either about to die or dead. He was not moving at all. The pain was extraordinary, and he had passed out of sorts too. So passing out, collapsing, great amount of it's fatigue taken to an extreme degree. I would not even call it fatigue anymore. After food poisoning is often arsenicum album. So while he was laying there, I put it in his mouth, and I sat there on the floor with him. And I had guests at the time in my living room, and I said, sorry, folks, I got to tend to my husband. And I was pretty unsettled myself, worrying about him. And I administered that medicine not twice a day in this situation, because, of course, the circumstances were so dire. I probably gave it to him every few minutes. And I just put it in his mouth. He couldn't chew. I mean, he didn't even have the strength to chew. So I put it between his gums and his lips in the mucosa, that it absorbed in the mucosa. And that's good enough. And don't think you're not supposed to chew these medicines, by the way. Parenthetically, let me mention that there's nothing wrong with chewing the homeopathic medicine. So it will act whether you chew it or it just sits in there. And as I saw that it was going, that he was using it up and sucking on it or whatever, I don't know, maybe I used a softer pellet, I don't remember. I would give it to him every few minutes. Finally, he came to of sorts and went into the bathroom, and of course was very sick for that night. And then the next day, he was still sickly through the night. I kept administering it, not every 10 minutes. Then as he started to come around, I opened it up to every hour, then opened it up to every 2 hours, and kept administering it. I stayed up with him through that night. The next day, he was pretty beat up, but was able to go to work, as I recall. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering it correctly. Without arsenicum album, he probably would have had to have his stomach pumped. To be honest, if I did not know homeopathy, did not have that medicine, folks, I probably would have taken him to the hospital. He was pale, and he was cold, and that scared me too. Now, I could also have used, by the way, for those of you who knows homeopathy, I could have used carbovegetabilis as well. There are others because of that extreme weakness and prostration. That would also be a medicine that I would consider. But arsenicum album is very specific for food poisoning. So oftentimes we use this medicine. There are so many uses for arsenicum album. I'm going to urge you strongly to read up on it. Read My Materia Medica if you have it. If you don't have it, get it if you're interested. Go online and read the Materia Medica, any Materia Medica on arsenicum album, because the uses for this medicine are varied and extreme. Okay, so let's see. Has anyone answered my question as to why we love poisons, Perry? Have you seen it anywhere? I'm sure it's down here. Yeah, arsenicum album works amazing, says Joanne. You're absolutely right. It's a phenomenal medicine. So arsenicum album, and I don't know if you can see this, my eye is kind of sagging and swollen underneath my eye, and it's this one a little bit, but more this one. And it's because I have a little touch of eczema, and it went away for a while and then sort of came back again because I stopped taking, guess what? Arsenicum album. That's the one that I've been using. I've used others for this, but I'm finding arsenicum album is really great for it. And the reason for that is because arsenicum album also incorporates the condition or the symptom of itching. And there are times when my eye is so itchy, it feels like I could scratch it right out of my face. It's so horrible. So I start taking arsenicum album, and I use it in a 200C for that. By the way, for my husband, I think I mentioned, I used a 200C as well for food poisoning. So it's great for eczema. Now, I've not had eczema since I was a child. Look, it's all swollen and kind of funny looking. So it's great for that. It's also great for vomiting and vomiting and nausea. More often vomiting than actual nausea. Although you can have, certainly those two are concomitant. If it's just nausea, I wouldn't really be thinking of arsenicum album as much as I would be thinking of, say, tobacum or ipecac or something like that. But arsenicum album is fabulous for actual vomiting, and especially if there's that prostration, that weakness, that intense, oh my gosh, I can't even move sensation. And in spite of that, many people who need arsenicum, there's this psychological aspect to it, which is really fascinating. My husband did not have that because he got so sick so quickly. And that is when you're in need of it in an acute situation, such as what my husband went through, but a milder, much milder version of it. The person is in the bathroom and looking at the pictures and straightening them out, or looking at the towels and straightening them out. There's a restlessness of the mind. There's also a restlessness of the body. It could be the toes are wiggly. It could be the leg is shaking. It could be that they're up and walking and pacing. And they crave at this time, when it's not as severe as my husband's situation, they crave drinking. And they don't drink, they drink water, and they don't drink a whole glass like this. They drink as a sip. Sip, put it down. And if you ask them, sip, put it down. If they're thirsty, they rarely say, sip, put it down. Yes, because they don't really recognize thirst, because most people think of thirst as drink. But in this situation, when the need for arsenicum album is presenting, it's in sips. It's in little sips. So collapse, restlessness. How about this? Arsenicum album is great for anxiety, panic attacks, especially those that present at night. Can be other times, especially around midnight. Panic attacks, anxiety, and if there's a component of a gut issue, such as what I'm describing with food poisoning, it is excellent. Pardon me? Amanda, where's Amanda?
Oh, she's right at the bottom.
Okay, at the very bottom. Amanda says 11-year-old daughter uses arsenicum 200 for eczema and anxiety at bedtime. You bet. And we use it until it's done. In other words, that could be months, could be a week, but it's more likely when it's eczema, then it's going to be a longer period of time. It's going to take longer. So it usually takes months. Once in a while, we see eczema go like that, but generally speaking, it takes longer. Let me just see what else I've got here. I want to make sure that you know. Oh, arsenicum album is great mixed with lycopodium, and that's a Banerjee protocol. It's often lycopodium 200 mixed with arsenicum 3, and I've written about it on my blog. I teach about that in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course, and it is very specific for bloating, food intolerances, gurgling in the belly, burning. And arsenicum album sometimes has an aspect of burning. So there can be burning in the stomach, there can be burning in the rectum, there can be burning in the throat. That's another way to use it. Let me think what else. I want to make sure that I've covered. There's so many conditions in which we use arsenicum album that I'm sure I'm going to miss them. Fear of death. That anxiety can go that far. That panic can take it that far. So the reason that we love poisons in homeopathy, to make this perfectly clear, is because poisons cause tremendous symptoms, sometimes even death. They cause symptoms, and those symptoms are really clear. And we know that through all the poisons that have occurred and have been recorded since the beginning of recorded medical history. And so with those symptoms, now we can figure out exactly what will be cured by that poison when the poison is diluted and succussed, which means there's a certain procedure, a homeopathic pharmacological procedure, mathematical procedure, in which it is diluted and then succussed, which means it's shaken. Diluted and shaken, and it's done X number of times. And we use a specific potency for certain conditions and another potency for others. So, for example, with my husband, we used a 200C, And for eczema, we often use 200C. And for using it with lycopodium, with a gut issue, where it's a chronic condition, we use 6C. So you see, those potencies matter. When I started telling you earlier tonight that the way this works with these protocols is we give you exactly the potency. So I will get questions on my blog like this. I don't have 200C. I only can find 30, which always astounds me, because if you just click on the word, it takes you directly to boron, or it takes you to Amazon. Right there, you just click on it and it's sent to you. You just pay for it and it's sent to you. So, and that's one way. Now, certainly some people can't do that because they're maybe, I don't know, they're outside of the country or something, but it certainly is pretty easy. It seems easy to me. But potency matters. And so I always say to folks, look, you can use any potency you want, but if you want the kinds of results that I teach are possible, then you want to follow the recipe exactly. If you want to make a cake and not use flour, you can try it, but it's not going to end up being what you expected. Or you're going to use, it says to use 2 cups of flour and you use a half a cup. I mean, give it a try, have some fun with it, but you're not going to get the results, most likely. So let's see what else I've got here. Restless anxiety. Oh, how could I forget this? Arsenicum album is great for asthma. Excellent for asthma. Now, I'm not going to go into how it's used for asthma because we have other medicines that are just as good, if not better, but it is one of my favorites, one kind of about the tertiary level. The primary level is our remedies that I teach in my course called Allergic. And those are the first that we learn. But if there's that of course, there's always going to be panic. Not always. There's often panic with asthma. But if we have another picture of this, and we can put it together and say by picture, I mean, we have other aspects, other symptoms such as burning or bloating and eczema and panic and at night and restless and all of those conditions that fit together nicely. Our Arsenicum album can make a really great asthma medicine. So for my eczema, under my eyes, especially my left eye, I'm using a 200C, and I don't take it every day, which is what my problem is. I don't take it. I don't worry about my health. I used to worry horribly, and I've been released from that. So every once in a while I take it. And so I I should take it, Arsenicum album 200C twice a day, but I don't. I always think, oh, well, it'll go away. It's almost gone. And that's the way I want you folks to think to a certain degree as well. I don't want you to be frightened by disease or conditions or illnesses. I don't want you to overthink illnesses. I want you to take it in your stride, let it roll off your back if it's not a big deal, which is why I started with my father's story. I want you to let it go, let life just be, enjoy your children, enjoy your grandchildren, enjoy your life, your work, whatever it is that your focus is, get focused on that instead of your health. And when a health problem comes along, then this is the best way to do it. And so that's tonight. And love you all. Love all your responses and your little hearts fluffing up across my screen. It's wonderful. Thank you, ladies and gents. See you next Monday, and we'll carry on in our Materia Medica. So good evening, and mwah, God bless you all. Bye now.